and John Brandenburg is also part, and so is
Wow.
Jack Sarfati and others. And I know all the core people involved in that group, but it's become international. Um, we're talking allies, quote unquote, allies of the United States, which includes members of the Russian FSB, Israeli Mossad, and other intelligence organizations who've had interactions with this technology in the past. So,
Yeah.
because it's become more of a global issue than what it has been before in the past, we are looking at the particular point that these people are the gatekeepers. Now, will we have, and this goes into UFO disclosure, because these people are the ones keeping disclosure, complete disclosure from happening.
Right.
Now,
Do you,
why?
do you think they have control of President Trump at all? Or they threaten him or something?
He got threatened, from what I've heard.
Okay.
Let's just say it has to do with intelligence that was gleaned from the work done by Jeffrey Epstein. That's all I'm going to say.
All right.
They
So they
got
have something on him and they're threatening him with it?
well, yes. They got Trump by the huevos, if you know what I mean. They're squeezing.
Right. Okay.
And
Now,
the thing is,
let me do this quote from Eskridge, Amy Eskridge. She said, "If you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices. If you get your head chopped off, and that's still you're getting taken out. But yeah, I've noticed that because I do my stuff in public, and that's kept me alive, I believe, for a great extent. And you're doing the same thing." She added, "If you stick your neck out in private, they will bury you. They will burn your house down while you're sleeping in your bed, and it won't even make news. That's why the Institute exists." So they've been trying to expose this stuff the best they can, but they keep getting taken out, keep getting taken down, or they're hiding themselves, or someone's hiding them.
well, Mark McCandlish was not suicidal when he died in 2021. He and I talked about it quite frequently. I would call Mark on a almost either weekly or bi-weekly basis, sometimes daily, to check in on him. He was my buddy.
Yeah.
And just hours before he reportedly shot himself right here, I called him. He was trying to take a nap to check in on him. And he said, "Call me back later when I'm awake." And everybody that I've talked to who talked to him previously to his reported suicide has stated that Mark was when they talked to him, he seemed to be in a good state, positive. And there was no indicator that he would commit suicide.
Right.
And even though the coroner, the medical examiner, who found Mark's body after reported, and he and his assistant went to the apartment, told me on the phone that something weird happened. And I'll pass this by you, and I want your audience to think about it. Within 2 to 4 minutes after they arrived there in Mark's apartment, they found one Air Force OSI officer and one officer from the Department of Homeland Security came in and were asking leading questions to the medical examiner and his assistant. Now, these are federal agents coming in, talking with a ME, medical examiner, and sticking their nose and telling him what he needed to put into his report. And then afterwards told him that before you publish this, we would like to review it. Now, let me ask you, Michael. Now, number one, if Mark had killed himself, why would the federal government be sticking their nose into what should have been a civil matter within the jurisdiction of Shasta County.
Right. Well, it's saying here that he died in Redding, California, Shasta County, and a shotgun blast to the head, self-inflicted shotgun blast, suicide. I can tell you that's impossible. The angle that you're describing with a shotgun blast, he was shot in the back of the head, obviously. So, and then they get the Air Force guy showing up. So, do you think that the Air Force, because they have a secret projects team that we know from Area 51 and so forth, a lot of people have talked about it, that will put a lot of pressure on you if you start to get out of line. You think the Air Force might be involved in this, and why would the Air Force be involved in this is because of the secret projects that they're involved with.
Well, it goes beyond that. It's not the Air Force. The Air Force OSI officer was tasked to do surveillance on Mark. But not only that, it was the Office of Homeland Security. The strange part is they were there within minutes after the ME got there. And then they wanted to tell him, this is what you're going to write. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and even the ME thought that was strange. He told me on the phone, he goes, that doesn't make sense. Why is the federal government getting involved in a civil matter? And I heard that and I'm going, okay, that to me doesn't sound like he committed suicide. It sounds to me like he got offed by a covert intelligence operation.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. They did a documentary on Mark. It was done by a documentarian by the name of James Allen. It's called 0 Point.
I got to watch that. I've seen that. That sounds interesting. So,
well,
do you recommend that? Is that a good?
Well, yes, but here's the strange thing about that. The documentarian, James Allen, was told not to do the documentary, that he would be putting his life in jeopardy. He did it anyway. I mean, basically, if you watch the interviews that James Allen did before he passed away, he did the old FU to him, and I'm going to do it anyway. Well, within weeks before the release and before the final edit of the documentary came out, James Allen died of a rare form of fast-acting cancer. And it was Mark McCandlish that told me that he did a blood toxicological test and also a tissue test where they found a radioactive isotope that he had ingested.
Wow. Yeah. That's how they take people out. Wow. Crazy.
They took him out, and then when Mark would not shut his mouth, I believe Mark was murdered as well. They finally said, we can't deal with this man anymore. He won't shut up. And he kept going. And here's the other thing. One of his last interviews was done on the APEC conference with Mark Sokol and with Jeremy Reese. And then within a week after he did that interview, he was dead.
Damn.
Now, here goes back to what I was saying about Mark Sokol. The guy has a benefactor, which means he's getting money from somewhere. And even Brent Nelson told me that he didn't know where the money was coming from. In my opinion, now there's nothing that I can confirm with this, but the rumor is that he's getting paid a substantial amount of money from either Israeli intelligence or a millionaire Israeli donor benefactor who's paying to have or to make sure that his company has an air of legitimacy. But no, Mark Sokol is not legitimate. And the rumor had been, and I heard this from several people, at the Tesla Tech conference that I spoke at, that he was working with a foreign intelligence agency.
Mm-hmm.
The only one, and then they kept mentioning that he had dual citizenship with Israel, and that he had been dating Amy Eskridge at the time, right before her demise. And if you hear that recording that her best friend did of a phone call, which he released on the Nancy Grace show about people, UFO scientists dying, and you can find that on YouTube. She doesn't mention Mark's name, but has enough clarifying data in there where you can actually, if you know the situation, you know that she was talking about Mark. And I happen to know people, including Dr. Brandenburg, who knew Amy, and everybody within that orbit made a comment that he was responsible for Amy's death, either directly or indirectly. Everything happened very quickly to Amy after she threatened, or after she reported him to the FBI for espionage and for treason. That when she died, that all went away. What's happening here, in my opinion, and we're looking back on potential murders and disappearances, which I hate to tell you this, you'll probably find that the biggest majority of the people who have disappeared are no longer with us, that they died. I'm sorry to tell people that. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I'm praying I'm wrong, but
yeah, I hope so too.
Like
if anybody, I think that that one general has possibility, because they haven't found his body. McCaslin, Air Force Major General William Neal
McCaslin, yeah. William Neal McCaslin, and I met him one time before. It was a weird meeting in Ruidoso, New Mexico. He and his wife were down there vacationing, and he came up and talked to me. We just had a simple conversation. It wasn't about anything to do with UFOs or. He asked me what I was doing. I told him, and I asked him, "Well, what did you do?" He goes, I'm a retired U.S. Air Force general." And I go, "Okay." And I said, "What kind of work did you do?" And he goes, "Well, I worked on classified programs." And that's all he told me. And I knew better than to try to probe him about it. So, but he was a really nice guy. And I don't believe, in my opinion, because of what happened to me in the past, that there's any such thing as an accident. People like that don't come up to a guy like me and start talking to me just randomly.
Right.
In other words, for years, as I've told you before in the past in your audience, I've been watched very closely by members of CORE and other members of military and civilian intelligence for many years. And at this point, I'm not scared about it. I've learned tactics. In fact, ironically, I'm going to a church right now, and I believe that was set up. I received a flyer, and I went to a service. And Michael, guess who is leading that church? The two people. They were both retired Navy, and they worked in naval intelligence.
Wow, interesting.
And they told me to stop talking about certain things.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm thinking, I don't think I need to go to church anymore. I love the guys, but I don't think it was by accident that I made contact with them. I think it was arranged.
Yeah, it was arranged, and they gave you the message, and that was good enough. But you, I know, are talking around a lot of stuff. I've talked around a lot of stuff. I know a lot of stuff. People have come up to me and have revealed so many things to me, and I'm like, are you trying to get me to reveal that and get in trouble? No. So you have to be very discerning of the information, like I know that you are, and we're giving away this information freely and helping people to see a bigger picture. And I think that's one of the great things that we do. Now, the bigger picture here is like we're, I think, alluding to, is there are groups within the military, groups within every organization, really, government, you name it, that are not for our best interest. And they're controlling information and they're killing people that have great information. I'm glad that you're still alive because you've got great information. You're doing some good stuff. So what President Trump, they got stuff on him, but you think that he should just come out and reveal? Because
I think he needs to just lay it on the table, tell people this is what happened, and then he better tell Bibi Netanyahu, you ever effing, and I'd use that term, I'm not going to curse, but I'm going to tell you, if you ever effing try to blackmail me again, you're a dead man. And secondly, strip Bibi Netanyahu of his diplomatic immunity. Stop letting the Mossad come into classified government meetings, SCIF meetings, and into the Pentagon. And kick them out of the U.S. permanently. Now, for any of you who may claim I'm anti-Semitic, I'm not. I'm a part of the Eskazarian Jewish, and I put that in quotes, lineage myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm for the real Jews, mind you, the tribe of Judah and the 12 tribes of Israel.
Me too. Yeah. Great people.
And I'm making that point clear to everybody because the Zionist, quote, Jews will make a statement that, everybody who speaks against the Zionists are anti-Semitic. Well, who are the Semites, my friend? The Semites are the actual tribe of Judah, not the grafted synagogue of Satan, which the Ashkenazis are. Now, the thing is, if we're supporting the nation of Israel and they're working against our best interest, and we've given them money hand over fist, we are actually paying for our own demise. The Israeli government has made it very clear that they hate the United States. We're not talking about their rhetoric they give when Bibi Netanyahu gives when he's here in the States in front of cameras. But when he's talking to young Jews in synagogues here, he says that we need to curtail our freedom of speech. We need to stop people talking against the quote nation of Israel. And that he says people need to be arrested and or killed. This is Bibi Netanyahu here. What we're looking at is we're supporting a nation state that, number one, looks after themselves. And, I understand that, but they don't need to do it on our dime. We don't need to be supporting that. But they're actually against Christianity. They're against our nation, yet we supply and support them. Why? And as we're talking today, we are supporting the very people who may be directly involved in the disappearance or murder of our scientists. I want you to let that sink in. And the Justice Department and FBI are turning a blind eye. We didn't see nothing. They're doing Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing, I see nothing, and I hear nothing.
Yeah.
And let me let you in on another little secret. I'm not going to name the actress's name, but I will give your audience enough information to where you can glean what I'm saying without me revealing who it is. There's an Israeli actress who came to Tesla Tech in 2021. She wasn't wearing makeup and all, but she was wearing a golf cap on her face and was sitting near the back and was taking notes of my presentation. She's a woman who plays a superhero.
Okay, we're narrowing it down.
Okay. She was a member of the Israeli Defense Force. In fact, she was their chief hand-to-hand combat trainer.
Nice.
But there was another thing that a lot of people have rumored about, and I got confirmation when I was there because people who saw her there, she was a member of the Mossad.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, Michael, why do you think she was there at my presentation taking copious notes? I mean, why would that actress be interested herself in listening to a presentation about theoretical anti-gravity warp physics? She's doing it because, oh yeah, Matt, you may be close. You might be hot.
I think he's pretty high. Yeah. Good job, Matt. So yeah, obviously, why would she's an actress and hand-to-hand instructor for Israeli military. Yeah, why would she? That doesn't sound like her forte. Or so he's an information gatherer, obviously.
She was gathering intel, and she wasn't the only one there. There were several other people. And Mark Sokol went to her, and he acted like he knew who she was. And I remember when he went to go talk to her, he was kind of being flirtatious with her. And she goes, "I'm not here to see you. I'm here to see him," and pointed at me. But I couldn't get to her because everybody else surrounded her. And I was going to ask her what she thought of the presentation. Yeah. But before I could get to her, everybody cocooned her. And I go, what? Bye. And I walked off. And she kind of did this. No, it's okay. But
maybe she has a secret interest in that type of anti-gravity technology. I don't know.
Well,
now, you've also talked about Operation. What's the one? The Looking Glass.
So Project Looking Glass. Yeah. I knew the original technician on that project.
Wow.
William Billy Rose.
So before we go into that, I mean, I know what it is, but tell my audience what Project Looking Glass is about.
Well, let me get into what I learned from Billy.
Okay.
Because he explained it very well, and I'll repeat what he told me.
Nice.
He asked me at the time, he goes, "Paul, did you know," he asked me about my dad being a Roswell witness, and he then brought up the subject, "Paul, what if I was to tell you that the Roswell craft, we tried to reverse engineer the propulsion system, but we could get nowhere with it. But what if I was to tell you that it was a time machine?" And he explained multiversal theory. And he goes, "We weren't able to reverse engineer it, but we understood the physics well enough where we could replicate certain aspects of its drive system to where we could look into future events."
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, "Have you heard of Project Looking Glass?" I hadn't heard of it. This was around 99, 2000 timeframe. I said, "Well, no." And he goes, "We had the ability to look into the multiverse and get clean data and information from potential future events." Matt, you are correct about that, but remember, I didn't tell you. But what Project Looking Glass was, and potentially still is, was a way that they could look into the future, not only one future event, but using multiverse. They could look into up to 12 different scenarios.
Wow.
And they were able to glean future intelligence that they used later on, even private corporate entities used to manipulate the markets and all.
Yeah. Wow. So when you say 12 different like timelines, whatever, there's some that are more prominent, possible, and then there's some that are lesser, but any one of those really could be a future.
Anyone could happen. And it was when I was asking him why the military, I was being And let me clarify this with the listeners from the previous show. When I stated that I was being surveyed by military helicopters, I was, but there was also ground surveillance at the time.
Absolutely.
I'm psychic. I'm a psychic empath, and I would sense people following me.
Yeah.
And I would turn around to look at them, and one guy pushed me gently on my shoulder and said, "Don't look at me. Look straight ahead. Ignore me."
Wow.
I had complete total surveillance. They were protecting me. And I didn't know why. I had no idea. I said, I'm a nobody. I was homeless at the time. Why would they even take any interest in me? And what happened was Billy revealed it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go back to now explaining Billy Rose. Billy Rose was, he told me his life story. Back when he was younger in the 1950s, he showed an above genius level IQ. He was born in 1946, I do believe. And when he was a young boy, his teachers found out that he had an above genius level IQ. And the government, a government/private industry consortium, went to his parents and said, "Can we adopt him? We'll pay you money." And what they did is that they put him in the gifted children's program. They paid for his education. He came out of it with a doctorate in theoretical physics and a master's in psychology. He then, to pay back the money that they actually paid on him, he had to work for both private industry and government contractors on military advanced technology programs. And he worked for Lockheed Martin, he worked for NASA, he worked for the U.S. Air Force, he worked for Raytheon and many others. And he did work at Area 51 and S4. So when people say that S4 didn't exist and that Bob Lazar was blowing smoke out of his anus, they're wrong. It was a real, I don't know if it's still there or not. It probably isn't. Reportedly, all the work that was done at S4, because it became public, was transferred to the Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah. So, I mean, it's not there anymore. But during that particular time, Billy had worked on not only trying to reverse engineer the Roswell propulsion system under the contract he had with the U.S. government, but he also was the original technician and designer of Project Looking Glass.
Wow.
And why my story was involved. And he told me about it because on every single report they were getting from all the timelines that they were observing, my name came up in every one of the reports.
They were seeing you in the future, yeah.
And I asked him, I said, well, what am I going to do? I mean, he goes, I can't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, what I said to you may have already affected the timeline.
Wow. Yep.
But then I asked him, I said, well, can you give me a little something, that'll help point me in the right direction? He goes, it's geopolitical in nature. And I went, geopolitical? I said, that has nothing to do with science. Okie dokie. And I went off with that. And I introduced Billy to Dr. Stephen Greer.
Nice.
In 2011, I did. Within 6 months after he went to work with Stephen, who already knew who he was.
Wow.
He was dead. When they found him, he had injuries from what I heard, and I talked to Billy's ex-wife, his widow, Sharon. He had injuries consistent of what would happen to the body if you ran a car into a cement wall at over 110 miles per hour without the brakes on.
God. Man.
And
Wow.
They found him in his bathroom. They tried to claim that when they found him, his skull was crushed, his vertebrae was crushed, and he had a crushed shoulder blade and collarbone. Those are injuries that you cannot do on your own.
No.
In other words, what happened to the poor man is he had the holy living crap beat out of him. and it's because he did not keep his security oath. He revealed sensitive, compartmentalized information.
Hmm.
And how this segues into the story with Amy Eskridge. She wasn't revealing any classified information in any of her interviews, but she became a security risk when she threatened a Mossad asset, and that was Mark Sokol.
Hmm.
Now, was the U.S. intelligence community involved in her death? I believe it was peripheral. I do not believe that they got their hands dirty in it.
Yep.
But the Mossad sent agents to her home. She was probably drugged before this all occurred. She got drugged.
Hmm.
And after drugging her, they arranged for there to be a suicide, to which she killed herself with a gunshot.
Right.
In other words, she didn't kill herself, but they staged the body, staged everything. She was drugged to where she couldn't fight back, and then she got killed.
Yeah, it's maybe something that's like over your head. I mean, I don't understand why some people they don't just drug them to death and just leave them that way, or maybe it's mislead. They drug them, so they got to cover up the drugging, so they gunshot blast them, to pieces, and they put a suicide note out. Why do you think they do that? And like heart attack machine or something like that? It's like, oh, they had a heart attack. Yeah, it was a heart attack machine. Why do you think some of them they just desecrate? They desecrate their bodies by blasting or beating them to death or whatever. It's crazy. Sucks.
They needed plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Drugs can be traced back.
Sure. Yeah.
A suicide, they can make it look any way they want. And the same with what happened with Mark. Mark he was being surveyed within a week, and he told me about it. He was watching unmanned drones that was using what they call repulsor technology, pretty much anti-gravity technology. And he had seen them. They were flying around his house. He reported it, but people were saying he was crazy. He wasn't. And I know for a fact that he had become a liability to the U.S. government. Number one, when he became a sovereign citizen and didn't have to pay income taxes, and he owned a crap ton of guns. He was being visited pretty much every week by the Office of Homeland Security and by the U.S. Marshal's Office because they thought that he may be a potential terrorist threat, which he wasn't. He was a patriot beyond patriotism. Beyond what a patriot would be. I mean, Mark was the epitome of a patriot, a constitutionalist and all. He wouldn't have done anything to hurt anybody unless they tried to hurt him. Then all the gloves were off, or his family. But he was a pacifist. He wouldn't fight anybody. The guns were there for his protection. But because Mark became a sovereign citizen, their excuse was, we have to make sure that he isn't going to go off the rails and kill somebody. However, there was more to that. He was involved with Gordon Novell, and he had death threats made against his life from Gordon and other members of the RAM group, which I was a part of. So I have an insider knowledge as to what happened with RAM. And Gordon, it was a proxy way of how the U.S. intelligence community were, they were being blackmailed by Gordon. He had information on them. And then they used RAM to help funnel money into Gordon's coffers. Gordon never used except for one small bit of that money. Used it for the research that he was claiming he was going to use it for. He actually used it to buy hookers and drugs. He had a morphine addiction or heroin addiction. Gordon did. So it was as soon as he lost the blackmail that with Gordon, it was within about a month or two that he passed away at a nursing care facility where he got that MRSA infection and a broken. Now he did have diabetes, mind you. Let me tell the audience, Gordon did, give the audience that information. He did have diabetes, severe diabetes. He was a stage 1 diabetic. But the crazy thing about the old fart is that he used to mix heroin in with his insulin.
Mm.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I knew that because I knew Gordon.
Yeah.
But Gordon, you could have said that he had to have his foot amputated and his leg, I think, amputated before he passed away.
Diabetes. Yeah.
MRSA, the flesh-eating bacterium, was introduced when he went in for surgery.
Wow.
And that's what Mark found out before he died.
Damn.
Is that, and they ran and Mark paid for it out of his own pocket, if I remember correctly. Paid for them to do a toxicological DNA exam to see where that bacteria derived from. And he was able to find out that it was from Fort Detrick, Maryland.
Jeez.
From a batch from Fort Detrick. And Mark was going to have Gordon's death investigated as a murder, as a homicide.
Mm.
And in fact, before his death, before Mark died, I believe he was going towards that avenue to investigate it, so that way people would have been brought to justice, and he was never able to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Well, and here is one thing I want to share with everybody, and thank you, Mary. I think I might need to do a romantic comedy after this too, as well.
Yeah.
But
Just got to unwind from all this. Yeah, it's pretty deep stuff, no doubt.
well, and let me tell you guys something.
Mm-hmm.
Mark McCandlish had been invited to testify in front of Congress by Marco Rubio.
Really? When was
Yes.
that?
Mark died in 2021. It was supposed to be later that year. They were going to initiate UAP testimonies later that year in September. And Mark had been in contact on the phone with Marco Rubio.
Wow.
And it was no more than like 3 weeks after everything had been arranged that Mark ended up, quote, offing himself. Now let's go.
That's what's going on right now because Trump has said we're gonna start to reveal this stuff, and now everybody's dying. That's interesting. It could be the same.
What
thing.
about that Air Force officer who just died? Who reportedly died in a weird Tesla wreck where it burned his. No, that was the NASA scientist. The other Air Force guy died from a gunshot wound when he was scheduled to be a whistleblower in front of Congress.
Hmm.
And that NASA scientist died in a weird Tesla accident,
Right. Yep.
which has all the earmarks of a hit.
Oh, totally.
And the point is, what we're looking at here and what we have to look at here is that, in my opinion, and I'm not saying that the Mossad is 100% involved in this completely.
Sure.
There are people within the U.S. intelligence community and also military industrial complex contractors.
Very good. Yep.
Who, and let's get into that, segue into that right now.
Okay.
Military.
And this is perfect, Paul, because what I want to do is talk about some of the technology that, that's been hidden, the directed energy weapon stuff, and it just got used yesterday by our fleet. So let me play a little clip about that, and then we'll go into some of the stuff that you're talking about, the military industrial complex, and how they're involved in a lot of this stuff, and how some of it's just probably protecting, some of these industries that have this information. You got outside sources basically about ready to reveal something. Maybe this is what this is all about, which is why don't they just bring these scientists in and make them part of the program? So this is, he's going to talk about, this is Max Afterburner. He's going to talk about the ships that are in the Hormuz Strait. 3 destroyers ran through, and they started using directed energy weapons. So let's look at
systems are confirmed deployed in this theater, and either or both could have been active during this engagement. First, let's talk about the Odin. That's the Optical Dazzling Interceptor, or interdictor for you acronym lovers. That's designated the ANSEQ-4. This is what's called a soft kill system. It projects a focused laser beam onto a drone's electro-optical and infrared sensors. The drone doesn't explode. It basically goes blind. Guidance system loses the target, loses orientation, and the airframe either crashes on its own or becomes easy prey for other defensive systems. Odin has been confirmed deployed on Arleigh Burke-class destroyers during Operation Epic Fury. It's not experimental. This is operational laser weapons crushing Iran's drones. Next is the Helios system. This acronym is for the books, high energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance. The MK5 Mod 0 is the hard kill system aboard the USS Preble, confirmed operating in these waters. 60 kilowatts of focus energy. It doesn't blind the drone, it structurally destroys it. When you can't blind it, just structurally destroy it. That's the biggest flex ever. It burns through the airframe mid-air, invisibly. In early 2026, Preble used Helios to destroy 4 drones in a live at-sea demonstration. Proof of concept in real ocean conditions with real sea state and salt air.
All right, so we're definitely seeing some of this stuff beginning to be revealed. Now, I've been saying, yeah, we're using this. The bad guys use it to burn our cities, like they did in Maui, and like they did in the LA area just recently. So Palisades fire. So all of this stuff is, out there. The bad guys use it, but here we have, I believe, the good guys having on the good guy ships, and we're burning the bad guys, who's Iran, burning their drones out of the air with direct energy weapons and optical lasers. This is fantastic. This is being revealed now. What are your thoughts?
Well, they've been working on this technology since 1943, if not earlier, because they have. Remember, Nikola Tesla was working on the death ray,
right?
That he said would end wars, and he tried to give the technology to generate an equal playing field to every country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when he died at the age of 83 in that hotel room, and the U.S. government went in there and broke into his safes and stole all this data,
right?
His patent, his designs, just theoretical work and all.
Mm-hmm.
They have had since 1943. They, and also Russia and now China, have had time to perfect this technology.
Yep.
They've had well over 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone tells me that they could not have made a breakthrough in that time frame with the amount of money, the trillions that they put into it, I'll tell you, I've got some oceanfront property in the middle of Montana. I'll sell you for $1 an acre.
There you
go. Okay. And let's get into the other technology. I mean, the reason why they're releasing that technology it's a game-changing technology, but however, it's not the ultimate state of art. And this is where this comes in as to why they don't want the UAP technology to be made public and to be disclosed? And why